welcome to the Phoenix Rising podcast. It is a third of the way through April, so I hope that you are having a wonderful April and this month full of big shifts and changes is treating you very well. I am Ashley Drummons, the host. I am a bit of a fitness junkie slash obsessed with mindset slash also obsessed with holistic nutrition. But I mean, all in all, this show is all about providing you with tools, knowledge, information, and stories to help inspire and empower you in your own life. So welcome. If this is your first time, have a seat, take a load off your feet. That was actually something I learned back in high school when I did cheerleading, but we're not going to get into that. I started this podcast back in 2021, all with the intention of just feeling like, you know what? There are a lot of things that people are not talking about that would really make a difference in their life and some deep conversations that need to be had. And I want to bring that to the table, hopefully to help you feel more connected in your own life, but really to just like empower you that you have everything that you need inside of you. You have all of the answers, the resources, the tools that you need. You just have to learn how to tap into that. So I'm very happy that you found me. If you are coming back to this, then thank you for coming back and joining me in this podcast episode. And if you are watching this on YouTube, hello. It's so great to see you. Well, you can see me. I can't see you, but hi. Today's podcast episode, not a big surprise, but you are the common denominator in every experience in your life. I made this as an Instagram post a while ago, and so many people thought it was like, they commented on it like, oh my God, like it's so true. And it's nothing mind blowing. It's just the truth. And I want to talk about it for a lot of different reasons, because when you are experiencing setbacks or you find yourself in a cycle of repeated things that you do not want to experience, it is so easy to blame everybody else, to complain about everything outside of yourself, because the last thing any of us want to do is stop and take a look and realize like we are the constant in all of this. So I have my little notes here. This is all, if you can see this, it says Epicurean at the top. So I wrote all this out. This is me. This is so me. This is what happens. So it says Epicurean because earlier this week I was at this incredible wine event that I got this private invitation to. So it wasn't like a consumer event. And it took place at a very nice boutique hotel here called the Epicurean. And it was all in the food theater, which is where I took my WSET level 3. Somebody had invited me to this event because they flew in some very big winemakers. And when I say very big, I don't mean big in the sense of the winemakers everybody knows, big in the sense of like, these are very, very good winemakers, but they're small producers. So most of the world does not know about them. However, they are like fantastic. And just if you know anything about wine, or you're somebody in the industry that knows about wine, they invited a lot of people in the area to come to the Epicurean to taste. It was actually pretty amazing to taste different verticals of these wines. So there's a winemaker from Soave, there's a winemaker from Tuscany, and then I sat in on a presentation from a winemaker from Rioja. There was a lot of them, but those were the three that I went to. And I am not kidding you. I had this wine. So it was a vertical tasting. We'll get into all this. You're probably like, what does this wine have anything to do with this? It does, because my notes right here are on notepads from the Epicurean. But this wine, so the very first presentation I went to, the woman, the winemaker, her name was Barbara, and she lives in Tuscany. She is actually, her family is from Switzerland, and in her story, she's talking about how like her dad always had this dream of having a vineyard in Tuscany, and he moved the whole family over there, and then now they have this winery. So her winery is called Broncaia, and I had the pleasure of getting to be a part of this presentation and the tasting. She put us through a vertical tasting of this wine from 1994 all the way to, I believe it was 2019. What a vertical tasting is, it's where somebody takes the same wine, but they let you taste through 20 years worth of the different vintages. So it's super cool. Most people probably could care less about that. For me, I was like a kid in a candy shop. I was so excited because it's so fascinating to me. And this is why I ever got into wine, just because like I love the art and the culture and the passion behind these winemakers, because it really is a combination of like passion, intuition of knowing what to do with wine, but then it really is like there's such a strong artistry behind it. So to get to taste these wines, this one wine, Brancaia, from 1994, and looking at, I was posting some of this stuff on Instagram and looking at it, and like you can see the age and the color. It's got kind of that, it's no longer red, it's like that brick red, but then like as you're smelling it, some of the fruit isn't really there. So red wine, as it ages, the fruit tends to fall off a little bit, and you taste more of the structure of the wine, which comes from like the terroir, the tannins, and all that, and the color changes too. So seeing this wine over 20 years, and the first one being 94, and it's got this like brickish red, it was still fantastic, but it was so cool to get to go through that and taste all the way to like the latest vintage, which I believe was like 2019 that we got to taste. But anyways, my point in that, 2007, when we got to 2007, that by far was like one of the best wines I have ever had. If you come across a bottle of Brancaia Il Bleu 2007, buy it and send it to me, because I like to, everybody in the room was like, oh my God. I was like, that is so beautiful and so perfectly balanced and like smooth, and like there's just like the right amount of fruit and tannins and like a velvety structure, and they had decanted it for like 20 minutes so it opened up and it was also the right temperature. Like when you have all these components and then it comes together and you taste something that you're like, wow, that is like one of the best wines I've ever had. um, but I was talking to the winemaker after, and I was like, where can I get this? And she was like, oh, unfortunately, like I don't even have a case left at the winery. She had to fly in the last few bottles she had at the winery to do the vertical tasting. So I've been online looking for Brancaia Il Bleu 2007. So if you come across that, buy it. Buy the Brancaia. Anyways, so my notes here are on this notepad from the Epicurean, because when I am in that space of like passion and inspiration and being around people that are just doing what they love, like my mind gets going. And they gave us these notepads from the Epicurean to write down our notes of wine and like what our thoughts were, which I did do. But then I also have these 3 pages of notes for this podcast that I wanted to talk about. So that's the story behind my notes here from the Epicurean and the wine experience. So, yeah. So today's episode, you are the common denominator in your life. What I mean by that is if you keep changing jobs, relationships, you keep moving to different places, but you keep having the same experiences, the only thing in all of those experiences that is constant is you. Think of yourself kind of like a magnet. You are going to draw and find yourself drawn to certain people, places, and things for specific subconscious reasons that we'll get to in a minute, and vice versa. There are going to be certain people, places, and things that are drawn to you because of those subconscious beliefs. For example, if you have a belief that you aren't good enough deep down, you will find yourself attracted to people who make you feel not good enough. And people will be attracted to you who will also reflect that belief in you. So it's like I said, it all comes down to you. And it's super annoying because when you have it, like, I don't know if this happens to you or not, but this happens to me, is when like if something happens to me, all it takes is twice. Either somebody says the same thing or it's a similar experience. I don't react, I observe. And I mean, that's the goal, is you want to become the observer of your experience, not reacting to your experience. When you are reacting to every experience that you have, then you're taking the approach of being a victim in your life. You are acting as if life is happening to you and you are powerless. When you start to observe your experiences, you can start to see how you are an active player in your own game of life. So keep that in mind. So when things start happening and you find yourself, and I mean, this can go for anything. And like I see this over and over again, and it's always so interesting because when you recognize this and you really like understand this, that you are the magnet, you are constantly drawing things to you to reflect back to you the experiences that are going internally. That sounds like a loaded thing to comprehend, but to break it down very simply, if you have a belief of, let's just say, I'm not good enough. We're just going to stick with that because that's such a universal thing. I think on some level, everybody has that or has experienced that. But let's just say that you have that belief of I'm not good enough. You're going to subconsciously seek out people who treat you as if you're not good enough. Why in the world would you do that? Well, because our internal world is always dictating our external world. On top of that, people who can treat you that way will continue to find you and be drawn to you. And then you're sitting there wondering, like, when you don't have awareness or when you're not taking responsibility or paying attention to your life, what typically happens is people start complaining about this. And they're like, why am I always treated like shit? Why are people always acting like I'm incompetent? Or why are they always taking advantage of me? Or why do I feel like I'm always trying to prove myself to these people? And it'll start showing up in a lot of different areas because subconsciously it's being drawn to you to get your attention and to help you realize this is what you're putting out in the world. If you want to change this, then you got to go internally. When you're not aware and you're not paying attention to all of that, and these things keep happening, it gets very frustrating and it makes you feel powerless because you're like, why does every person that I meet treat me this way? Or why do I keep finding myself in the same situation no matter how much I keep changing? And more than likely, it's because you have changed everything based on what's happening to you, but you have not taken a look at where your inner attraction point is. See, this is something that is super interesting to me because there's something called an emotional set point. So an emotional set point is a topic, an idea that came about from the law of attraction, Esther Jerry Hicks, whole group of people. And I mean, it's also in psychology too. An emotional set point can reflect and be something that you picked up from somebody else. So it's the idea that perhaps you have a belief system or a mindset system that is not necessarily yours, but it became your emotional set point because of an environment or somebody that you really looked up to giving it to you. So an example of this would be if you grew up in poverty. They've actually proven this, that sometimes people who grew up in poverty, it is much harder for them to create wealth and abundance in their life because their emotional set point is poverty. They have adopted the mindset of lack and not enough and being poverty stricken. It is harder to go from that and believe that there's more than enough and that there's wealth and abundance and all those things, as opposed to somebody who grew up in a very wealthy household and a very wealthy environment who always saw that there was plenty and they always had more than enough. So it's an emotional set point. The same can be true on any level. Like somebody who came in an abusive household may grow up having a hard time believing that they can ever be really loved or accepted for who they are because they have an emotional set point that abuse equals love. So like you can span this across anything, across your work, across your relationships, your friendships. We all have different emotional set points, and sometimes they serve us. Sometimes they're good things. Sometimes our emotional set point can be, if you came from a very unconditionally loving family, then your idea of love in the world is very beautiful and wonderful, and you will continue to attract people who truly love you unconditionally. That would be a positive emotional set point. But we get both serving ones and ones that don't really serve us. The tricky part about life and adulthood is letting go and reprogramming the ones that no longer are serving us and keeping the ones that we do. So how would you even know this? So if you have an emotional set point that is not serving you in the way that you need to, you are realizing you are the common denominator to your experiences, and you continue to have experiences that you do not like, you're going to have to take a step back, stop reacting to your experiences, and start observing your experiences. This actually happened to me the other day. There was an emotional set point I had in regards to relationships, and I mean like not romantic relationships, just relationships in general. And there was a very familiar feeling that it was bringing up the, I don't know if it was necessarily a belief I had, but it was a familiar feeling of letdown and disappointment. And I thought I had taken care of it. Then somebody new had come along, and I like sent a text, and I got a text response back, and that person's response back gave me that same feeling that I remembered having in a different experience. And I recognized it immediately because I felt it. And instead of reacting and like falling apart and crying and all those things, I remember I felt it, and I'm like, hmm, that's interesting. And I just like set the phone down. That is becoming the observer. It's when you feel something, instead of like snowballing down and blowing it way out of proportion, if it's something you keep feeling over and over, feel it. But then when you feel it, just kind of like, sit with it for a second and observe it of like, that's interesting because I felt that way in this situation too. So why am I having this experience? What is going on here? And think of it from that perspective. Now, there's a lot of things that are going to happen when you start doing this. Now we're going to get like even deeper. So a lot of things happen when you start becoming aware and you are no longer acting as a victim and you're no longer acting as autopilot, and you're realizing like, I am the common denominator. Let me take responsibility for my life. We have this wonderful thing called the ego. The ego does not like being ignored. It is kind of like a child, and when you try to tame it or discipline it or train it, it will throw a temper tantrum. So if you've had this belief and your brain has kind of been able to signal like, okay, cool, she has repeated this to herself over and over for the last 10 years, or he has repeated this to himself over and over for the last 10 years, we can just like push the autopilot button and let this go. Now it can just run all the time. Now, all the time, he or she is going to be like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me. I'm never going to get this, blah, 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 blah. All that's just going to be on autoplay. Then all of a sudden, now it's on autoplay, and you have an experience that reflects that back to you, and then another one that reflects it back to you, except for now you're not on autoplay anymore, and you're like, wait. Your brain has a little bit of a freak out moment, because the brain's job and the ego's job is to protect you and keep you safe. It's your personality, it's your identity, it is your sense of self. Anytime you try to disrupt that, it goes haywire. It doesn't like change because it's like, I don't know, like you don't want to let this belief go. You've had this for 10 years. Like this is what you know. This is who you are. So it almost creates a very weird experience where I'm sure everybody has had this happen, where you decide like, no, I'm done with that. I'm no longer going to have that belief, or even take it out of the like brain and the conscious brain. Like you can turn it into like something, alcohol or smoking or thinking patterns are also considered an addiction. So if you have an addictive thinking pattern of negativity, poverty, self-defeat, self-abuse, whatever it is, it's still a form of addictive thinking, just like somebody can be addicted to a substance or brain altering drug or whatever. But just like when that happens and you decide like, no, I'm done with this, I'm not going to do that anymore. Like, I wish this was like live so I could be like, what normally happens when that happens? It's everywhere. It shows up everywhere. Now everybody is like, hey, are you sure you don't want to come have a drink? Are you sure you don't want to like come smoke with me? Hey, are you sure this, that? Like it shows up everywhere, almost to the point where it's humorous because you're like, Of course, I decide that I'm done with this, and now like it's showing up in every aspect of my life because the brain freaks out. The brain freaks out and doesn't want to lose its sense of identity. This is how our ego functions. So I'm saying all this because I have had people in mindset coaching and just like working on transforming things in general where they're like, how come the second I feel like I make a decision to do something, then all of a sudden like everything like changes really fast? Or like, how come the second I decide that I'm done with this job, now all of a sudden they want to offer me a promotion? How come as soon as I'm done with this, I decide I'm done with this relationship, now all of a sudden they're doing everything that I want them to do? Because you have made a shift. If you make a shift internally, everything externally naturally is going to like reflect that shift. Your goal is to not react to this though, but to observe it. So going back to the beginning of this, you being the magnet, you having these thought patterns and all those things, and the ego and identity being something that craves safety and connection. That is its job. That's its job. And it's so fascinating because I was having a conversation last week with somebody. I mean, I've been working through like some really, really deep stuff. And I had this breakthrough where I finally like had this big moment of letting go of a story I had been telling myself on a very deep subconscious level, letting go of a belief, letting go of an attachment. And I mean, like emotional attachment to something. And I'm like crying and I can feel myself letting go of it. And it was so interesting because that night I just like gave myself some space. I processed it all. And then the next morning, my brain was like on overdrive. And I mean, fortunately, like I kind of knew a little bit about this and I knew probably what was going to happen. And like part of this letting go involved letting go of certain people too. And I had this whole beautiful moment, this beautiful day where I like felt it all released, like on the deepest level possible. The next morning, I woke up and my brain is on overdrive, coming up with all the solutions on how I can make it work, how I can keep this person in my life, how I can keep these relationships, how I can like change myself to make this work. And I was watching it, well, watching it by observing it, like just letting all that be there and not attaching to it. And I was like, wow, this is so interesting. My brain, because it held on to those beliefs for so long, the idea of letting go of those beliefs is forcing my brain to try to come up with a solution so that I don't have to let go. Because the brain tries to protect you. It is always solution oriented. So anything that could potentially add pain or discomfort to your life, the brain immediately gets to work to try to keep you safe. So, like, if there's pain involved in letting go, the brain's like, no, 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 like, we can figure this out. Like, let's make this work. Let's do all this. We could do this, this, this. And it will go on overdrive to protect you so that you do not have to feel pain. Isn't that amazing? Like, the brain is fascinating. So I say all that because when you're realizing, like, you being the common denominator and you being the magnet, and acknowledging and having the awareness of observing what's happening so that you can start shifting and making changes. Don't be surprised if you do that. And then the next morning you wake up and you have all these ideas and solutions on how you don't have to change or how you won't have to do that. Or like, well, maybe I don't have to let go of these friendships if I do this and they do that. And it's like, just that's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen because your brain is terrified of change and transformation, especially if it's something that's been deeply rooted within you for a very long time. So that's your ego. That's your identity. That's the conscious mind always working to try to keep you safe. So then this is where it gets important is if you have never understood the different parts that you do have a personality side of you, personalities our personalities are what we develop over time based on our environment, based on society, based on upbringing, on what we think is normal, on what we think we're supposed to do, who we think we're supposed to be, what we do for love and acceptance, all these things. Our personalities are not necessarily our truest selves. They are ideas and parts of ourselves that we have created for all these reasons. So that would be considered your ego. You then have what you've heard me talk about multiple times, the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind, people always get like worked up about this, trying to understand this because they're like the conscious mind, the subconscious mind. Think of your conscious mind as that chatter that's constantly going, telling you everything that you need to do, keeping you busy, telling you your to-do list, making you feel whatever way you need to feel. And then your subconscious mind is like this quiet, calm, peaceful feeling you have in yourself that's just still. It's not chattery. It's not stressed out. It's not overwhelmed. It's just a big exhale. The subconscious mind is what you feel when you're very relaxed. It's what you feel when you go to sleep. It's what you feel when you are in an environment that you feel safe. That subconscious mind, though, is what holds all of your deepest beliefs that create the conscious mind. So, how do we access these things? So, I realize I'm sharing a lot, and I'm going to try and just like bring it home so you can actually apply these things to your life. When you are having experiences over and over and patterns that keep recreating experiences that you don't want to experience anymore, you recognize, all right, what's the common denominator? Damn it, it's me. Okay, well, don't beat yourself up. Yes, you are the common denominator. So, how do you change that? How do you change your emotional set point so that you no longer are attracted to things that you don't want and people also are not drawn to you that you don't want to be drawn to you? You have to access your subconscious mind and figure out what the hell is going on in there. So, with that, the way that you access the subconscious mind, I know you guys have heard this before. We're just like getting into it again. Meditation and anything that gets you in the zone. I was actually talking to my brother about this the other day because he was talking a little bit about how like he needs to get reconnected back to source because he always had this sense of connection and knowing to something greater than himself, but he kind of felt like he lost it a little bit. He was like, I told myself, like, I don't care how long it takes. If I got to meditate for 4 or 5 hours a day, like, I need to get this connection back. And I was telling him, I'm like, I'm so glad that you have that. I'm so glad that you're doing that. But remember, that doesn't mean that you have to lock yourself in a room in silence for 4 or 5 hours. You can recreate that connection and that experience doing anything that gives you that sense of feeling. It can be taking a walk out in nature. It can be when you're, I don't know, maybe it is when you're sitting in silence. It can be when you're playing music. Like there's so many ways we get, like I call it being in the zone or in your element. It can be when you're driving. It's that part when the chatter kind of like takes a back seat and you're just in it. You're just present to exactly what you're doing. So that doesn't have to, it doesn't mean that you have to sit for 4 or 5 hours a day in meditation unless you want to. You totally can. Maybe you get that in other areas too, but so you have to access that. And when you access that, then things come to the surface where you start to observe and you start to notice some thought patterns of like, all right, what is going on in here? And you're just breathing and you're staying present. And then all of a sudden stuff comes up and you're like, oh, that's weird. Like I'm thinking about the time when I was 5 years old and I had this experience and that created this belief that I'm not good enough. Or, oh, I'm remembering the time when this person broke my heart and fell in love with somebody else. And all of a sudden I created the belief that I'm unlovable. All of it will start to come up when you give it a chance to come up, because a therapist told me this once and it's very soothing. The brain is always moving towards healing. The brain always, even when you are not aware of it, is always moving towards healing. So is your soul, so is life. So when you give it the space to come up, you have these moments where like all this is coming to the surface and you're recognizing all of this. It is coming up because it wants you to acknowledge it, to shift whatever perspective you need to shift, and then move on so that you no longer are a magnet for things you don't want and you are now being and functioning as what you actually do want. So when you're sitting there, and I mean, the important thing about when you do this is not judging yourself. So if you're sitting there and you got like 100 things coming up that you're just like, oh my God, I have so many issues. No, you don't. We all have those things. It's totally fine. When it comes up, though, just recognize it and observe it of like, that's interesting. And that actually makes a lot of sense. No wonder I've been recreating these experiences. No wonder these people keep being attracted to me. No wonder all these things keep happening is because this is what's going on internally. So it makes perfect sense. So you have to learn to function from both your subconscious and your conscious. So again, remember, when you go to sleep at night, your subconscious takes everything you consume throughout the day and it compartmentalizes it as like, do we keep this? So you think of it like a filing system of like keep, throw away, this is a new belief, this is a new idea, whatever it is. And then when you wake up in the morning, your conscious mind takes all of that and is like, okay, now we're the worker. We're here to do, we're here to like get shit done and like take all this stuff for the day and help make it a reality. So a lot of the reasons people get stuck is because they spend so much time on the conscious part thinking like that's going to do the job when really what's going on is so much deeper than that. So pay attention. So to get like if you were trying to get started with any of this and like you just keep dealing with the same crap over and over or the same people. There was this meme going around I don't know what it was, Instagram, who knows, whatever it was on. But it was funny because it was something like, oh, you finally dealt with the no longer being attracted to unavailable people. You finally healed that. And then what happens? Like the next day, the universe sends you 5 unavailable people. And it's funny because it's the truth. Like when you finally like decide like, nope, I'm done with that, it will show up in all these different areas as, are you sure? Are you sure you want to let this go? Like we've had these ideas and these beliefs for a long time. So if you're wondering where your emotional set point is, or you want to know, what am I a magnet for right now? What am I magnetizing and attracting into my life? Take a look at the patterns and the recurring themes that are happening that you don't like. And instead of blaming every single person or every single experience for these things, just kind of look at it as like, that's interesting. All these people make me all feel the same way. And then it's like if I was working with you, I'd be like, okay, so what's the theme here? How do all these people make you feel? Well, they made me feel like I'm not good enough. And I'm just using I'm not good enough as an example because that's what we started this with, and that's the most common one. Excuse me, my throat is dry. I'm gonna have to get some water in a second. So, if you start out that way and you're like, okay, all these people make me feel like I'm not good enough. Okay, great. Good job. Way to observe that. Erase all these people now. Let's just start with that. Is there a part of you that struggles with feeling good enough? If so, great. Now, none of those people matter. What matters is this, is that we're acknowledging that there is a part of you that feels like you're not good enough. Cool. Again, don't judge any of this. Just observe it. Pay attention to it. Now that you have that, ask yourself, when was the first time you ever felt that way? When was the first time anybody ever made you feel not good enough? As far as you can remember. Maybe it's last week. More than likely, it was probably when you were younger. Whatever that experience is, just think about it. You can write this out. Actually, I recommend writing it out because that's a very cathartic process to help heal it. More than likely, what happens is you have unprocessed emotions behind that experience that created the belief to begin with. So if you're like, oh yeah, the first time I felt this way was when I was 10, this is what happened, whatever. Go through that entire experience, write it out on paper. You can say it out loud to yourself, whatever you need to do. Feel the emotions behind your experience. When you're done with that, challenge that belief. So see the whole story. Tell yourself the whole story. Oh, when I was like 14, I fell in love with this person. gave them my heart, and then he fell in love with somebody else, or she fell in love with somebody else. And in that moment, I realized I must not have been enough for them. I guess I'm not enough. Like, write out the whole story, because what happens is our brain creates our beliefs in very emotionally heightened experiences. Emotions are what create the biggest transformation in our brain. So write out whatever the whole story is in as much detail as you remember to validate this belief. Everything that validates that belief for you. Then when you're done, I want you to challenge that story and the belief. What that means is you can go through the whole thing. So let's say, I don't know, let's say you were 10 years old and I don't know, this person broke your heart because they fell in love with somebody else and you thought you weren't good enough. Or maybe somebody didn't pick you for their birthday party, or somebody didn't invite you to something. I don't know. Maybe you were 22 and somebody broke your heart, or you didn't get a job. Whatever it is, write it all out. When was the first time you felt that way? So now I want you to be the observer and I want you to look at this experience and the belief and challenge this belief. That means, is it possible that maybe this experience happened? Maybe that person did fall in love with somebody else, not because you weren't good enough, maybe just because they found another match and it had nothing to do with you. Is it possible you didn't get that job because the universe was actually doing you a favor and setting you up for something better? Challenge those beliefs and see if it's possible that a different perspective exists with the story that you have been telling yourself that created the beliefs that you have. Sit with that until you get to a place where you can recreate the perspective so that the belief is actually something you want, telling yourself a different story. That's the thing, is like we tell ourselves the same stories, but there's multiple versions of every experience. We only see things from a limited perspective of what we think happened, but what we perceive as the truth actually isn't always the truth. How many times has this happened in text message where somebody says something, it's in text, so you're left to interpret it, and then you create this whole story about yourself of like, oh my God, they didn't respond. That means they're probably upset with me. It's probably because I said this. I did something wrong. Now I like totally ruined this. And then you talk to the person and you find out like, no, I'm not mad at all. My phone died. That's why I didn't respond to you. But you had this whole belief system ready to go and all the things to validate it, just to find out that that wasn't the true story. The same thing happens with our brain when we do not have somebody else there. So when we have, especially when we're younger and we have these big emotional experiences and we don't have somebody there to tell us the truth. So like if it's a heartbreak, for example, the other person who broke your heart is not going to validate anything for you. So you are left to interpret it, or if it's a job, or if it's a friend, a family member, whatever. So when we have these big emotional experiences, we are left to create a story. Our brain does this because it's like emotional experience. Okay, great. I need a story for this, so I know where to put this. We create our own story. True or false, the brain doesn't know the difference between what's true and what's not true. It just accepts whatever you give it. Then it becomes a belief system. So what I am encouraging you to do to change the magnet and the emotional set point that you have is anything in your life that is recreating a experience over and over that you do not like, see what it is that you are feeling with how does each of these experiences make you feel? When was the first time you felt that way in the experience? Get to the core, like as early as you can remember. Tell yourself the whole story and then work backwards to be like, is it possible that the story that you have been telling yourself that created these beliefs might not be the truth? That another one exists? Then come up with a new story that serves you. Maybe that person didn't break your heart. Maybe you actually dodged a bullet. Maybe you were better than they were. Maybe you deserved better and they knew it and you knew it and they did you a favor. Maybe that job didn't work out because honestly, you were overqualified and deserved to be paid so much more. There's always another story. And when you start telling yourself another story, you create a new belief system. Then you start attracting different things, life shifts and life changes. So in the long run, you're, hi, in the long run, the way that you make this stick is through awareness, repetition, and time. You do not have the belief systems that you have right now because you had one new thought and then that was it and it became a belief system. Your belief systems become repeated thoughts over and over and over through time that get locked into your brain as a sense of identity with the ego. So, with repetition. So, let's say you go through this whole process and you're going through this story and you're like, maybe a new story does exist. And you tell yourself a new story. Now you have a new belief of like, it's no longer I wasn't good enough. Now it's like, actually, it had nothing to do with me. It never had anything to do with me. I'm awesome. I think I'm great. I'm perfect as I am. The right person will find me eventually or whatever. Actually, that job, me not getting that job had nothing to do with me. There just wasn't a good fit on either side. So I can just keep going about my way. I am qualified. I am good enough. When you have that new story and the new perspective and the new beliefs, you then have to practice repetition to install, that's the best word I can think of, is install those new beliefs in your brain that will then create new experiences in your life. You can do this through meditation. You can do this through mantras, through affirmations. You can do this any way that you want to do. So if your belief was, I'm not good enough, or I'm not capable, or smart, or pretty, or loved, or whatever, your new belief can be like, you know what? I am more than enough. I'm enough as I am. Say that to yourself over and over and say it out loud to yourself over and over and over again until that becomes the thing that's on autopilot. Once that becomes on autopilot, then you will find yourself attracted to people who validate that belief. And the people who can validate that belief are who will be drawn to you. I know this seems like a lot, but it's actually super fascinating and empowering when you really understand this process. That at any time when you are having experiences in your life, especially repeated experiences that you are like, I am so tired of this happening. Okay, well, all of these are different people, places, and things. The only thing that's the common factor in this is you. So, sorry, let's work on you though. Once you realize that though, like you become empowered to make the changes you need to make in your own life, and you no longer are the victim in your life. You are the magnet. The question is, what are you a magnet for? The only person who can answer that is you. And it's not as easy as like, there's so many people that like tell you to just like, oh, just repeat an affirmation. It's not really that simple. I mean, yes, that's a good like starting point. So if you're thinking like I'm not enough, start repeating, I am more than enough. That's not really accessing your subconscious brain though, which that's what we want to get to. So if you go do something that puts you in the flow and gives the space to bring up all this stuff that's going on a deeper level, that's when you're getting to the root of the things. That's where change occurs. That, if you think of it like soil, is where you can plant a new seed to grow a new system of beliefs and thoughts. Just like with your workouts, repetition is the key. You cannot show up and decide like, I want to work on my arms. And you do one set of bicep curls and walk away and never do it again. It is not going to give you arms that you want. It's showing up a few times a week, doing multiple repetitions over and over time, your body will start to change. Your brain and your soul and your mindset is all the same thing. You cannot wake up one day and be like, all right, I deserve better. And say that one time, and then all of a sudden, like everything shifts. You have to discipline your mind and train your mind the same way you train your body. So spend time, like I've always recommended, morning and night is best. The reason being, that's when your subconscious is most open. It's when it's most receptive to new ideas and for you like accessing it, because as you go throughout the day, your brain gets very busy with just living and to-do list and all those things. So in the morning before you started your day and at night as you start to wind down is when that is most open for you to plant some new seeds and to access what's really going on. If you don't want to meditate, don't meditate. Go do something else that lets you access that. It's super important. So I wanted to talk about this because honestly, you got to quit playing the victim in your own life. You got to quit pretending like you didn't choose the experiences that you had. And I know that's really hard to swallow because it's like nobody wants to admit when they're having experiences that are unpleasant. Nobody wants to admit that they continue to choose abusive people over and over. Nobody wants to admit that they continue to sell themselves short in their career over and over. But on some level, you are choosing it. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. And what I said, I sent an email out to the newsletter earlier. Actually, I think I sent it out on Sunday. I sent an email out to the newsletter earlier, and I was talking about the sense of belonging. And the reason I was talking about this is because that is so important into why you keep choosing your experiences. So, like, common sense would be like, well, why would I continue to choose a job that underpays me? I can't answer that for you. Why are you doing it? At any moment, you can stop. Why do you keep choosing people that abuse you? At any moment, you can say no, but to recognize like you are literally choosing this every day. And I had this moment one time, I may have already told this story. I was in my early 20s, maybe like 20, 21, 22, something like that. I don't remember. But I had this moment where I just kept dating, like, God, such like, I don't want to call, they weren't bad people, but they were just like, the effort they put into me and the relationship was just like so minimal. Like they treated me like an option. We'll just say that. I was not a priority to them. And I remember I was talking to my dad about this and I'm like crying and like, why do these guys keep treating me this way? Like, why won't they like give me the love and the respect that I deserve? And I was like so mad because of the person that I was dating and just like, I deserve better. I can't believe he's treating me like this. And I just remember my dad, he was like, I mean, you chose them. And that like that was all he said. And at first I was offended because I was like, I cannot believe he's being so insensitive right now. And I was like, wait a minute. Why am I choosing them? It was like this weird light bulb moment of like, love is weird. Love is weird because sometimes I think what happens, and this is the same, actually, this would be true, I think, in jobs too, and in friendship, and everything, actually. But we'll use love because this is the example I'm talking about from my early 20s. It's weird because, like, if you haven't been in a relationship or you haven't been in a relationship in a while, you almost, like, if somebody shows up and they so deeply love you, you almost just accept that. I was like, oh, this is the love relationship for me. I don't really know how to explain this. Almost forgetting that you can choose to say no to that relationship. Kind of like friends. Like if a friend like shows up and they love you so much, you kind of forget that like just because somebody else loves you doesn't mean that you have to choose to love them too. I don't know if this is making any sense. In that moment, it was really a light bulb moment to me because it was like, it was one of my first few relationships when I was younger. And when you're younger, you kind of just take on relationships. Like you don't really ask a lot of questions. You're like, ah, he's cute. We have fun together. You don't really ask anything super deep. And then it's almost, I don't know. It's almost as if you just accept whatever shows up, forgetting that like just because you're at a restaurant and somebody set food in front of your table and you are hungry, you don't have to eat that. You can be like, oh, actually, I don't want steak. I really wanted the salmon. Oh, okay. And then it'll bring you salmon. So, like, in that experience, in that moment with my dad, when he was just like, Ashley, why do you keep choosing these guys? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, just because something shows up in my life and chooses me doesn't mean I have to choose them. Like that was such an eye-opening thing for me, not just in like those relationships, but just thinking about work too. Like just because somebody gives you a job offer doesn't mean you have to take it. Quit acting like you're desperate. It's the whole thing of like, don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry. You'll take anything. Don't go get a job when you're desperate. Don't go get in a relationship when you're lonely. Don't go finding friends when you're desperate for friendships. Fill yourself first, then you're going to make much better choices. Anyways, that's why I wanted to talk about this because there was just like a lot of people talking about the same things over and over. And I'm listening and I'm just like, you keep having the same experience. One, because that's all you talk about. So you keep talking about the same experience. But two, because that's what you are. That's what you like radiate with. You don't radiate with love and joy and light and happiness and prosperity and abundance. Like you are the most negative person I have ever met. So of course you're going to attract more negativity in your life. So with this episode, hopefully you have some tools that you can take away and really start to just become the observer and make some changes in your life so that you are no longer the victim, but you are empowered to create the life that you want. All right. I think that's enough. Do me a favor, screenshot this, tag me on Instagram at Ashley Drummond, and let me know. I have a question for you. So those of you who listen to this, send me a message and let me know, what did you like about this episode and what did you not like? Is there anything that you want more or less of? Yeah, I think that's what I want to hear. If you have not already, also share this with somebody who needs to hear this. If you have a friend or a family member or a coworker that you're like, oh my God, that is my best friend. She needs to hear this, or he needs to hear this, or like, oh my God, that's my mom, my brother, my sister, whoever, send this to them. And I will be the one to tell them, like, hey, get your shit together, quit being a victim, take responsibility for your life. Send them this episode and tell them. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me in this podcast episode. I appreciate you so much. And I hope that you take all of this and you apply it to your life. And yeah, go get empowered. Go create the life that you want. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.